The bar was loud that night. Laughter, music, and the faint scent of spilled beer filling the air. Two black men sat quietly at a corner table, their calm presence cutting through the noise. But peace doesn't last long when prejudice walks in wearing a badge. The moment the cops stepped through those doors, eyes shifted, whispers started, and tension thickened like smoke. Within seconds, what should have been an ordinary night turned into a storm of suspicion and fear. What no one in that bar knew was that these suspects weren't ordinary men. They were America's elite protectors. Marcus and Malik Davis were identical twins, same eyes, same voice, same quiet strength. But their paths had taken them into different uniforms. Marcus, the older by 7 minutes, wore the Navy's colors with pride, a SEAL commander, molded by discipline and danger. Malik, on the other hand, carried himself with a calm authority that came from years of service as an Air Force captain. Despite their achievements, tonight wasn't about rank or glory. It was supposed to be a simple night out. They'd just returned home to Atlanta after years overseas. The plan was simple: grab dinner, catch up, laugh about old memories. But stepping into that bar reminded them that some battles didn't happen in deserts or oceans. They happened right here, on home soil. At first, everything seemed normal. A few friendly nods, the hum of conversation, the bartender pouring drinks without hesitation. But when a group of officers walked in, the atmosphere shifted. Their eyes lingered too long, scanning the twins like they were intruders. A dropped glass behind the counter made the whole room flinch. Malik felt it, that familiar heat of being watched, judged before being known. Marcus noticed too, but stayed calm. They'd dealt with danger before, just never like this, never in their own hometown. When one officer started whispering to another and reaching for his radio, Marcus sighed softly. He'd seen this pattern too many times, an assumption turning into escalation. The night that began with laughter was about to expose how little a uniform or title could shield a black man in America. The officers didn't rush in. They circled like sharks sensing blood in the water. One positioned himself near the door, another by the counter. The tallest of the group, a sergeant with a hard stare, walked directly toward the twins' table. His hand rested casually on his holster, his voice cutting through the music. IDs. Now. The room went silent. The bartender froze mid-pour. Conversations died. Malik looked up slowly, confusion tightening his jaw. Marcus said nothing, simply studying the officer's tone, the posture, the intent. They'd both been trained to read danger, and this wasn't procedure. It was profiling. Malik reached for his wallet, moving carefully, so nothing could be misread. Still, the officer's hand twitched on his weapon. "Slow down," he barked. A ripple of discomfort spread through the bar. Someone muttered, "Come on, man, they're just sitting." But no one stood up. No one intervened. Marcus finally spoke, his voice low and steady. "Officer, there's no need for aggression. We're just having a drink." That calmness seemed to irritate the sergeant even more. "You matching a description? Two black males suspected of carrying firearms." Marcus exchanged a look with Malik, the kind of silent communication only twins understood. Both knew this could turn deadly fast. Malik glanced around. No one was matching their description. There was no description. This was a setup built on nothing but fear and skin color. The officer motioned to his partner. "Search them." Marcus's patience thinned. His instincts, honed in war zones, kicked in. He scanned every exit, every angle, always calculating. He could disarm both men in seconds if he had to, but doing so here in public would only feed their narrative. So he stayed still, heart pounding, jaw locked. Malik's phone buzzed on the table, a message from their base contact. He ignored it. One wrong move could mean headlines, not justice. The sergeant leaned closer, his voice dripping with arrogance. "You think those nice watches hide what you really are?" The insult stung more than the accusation. Marcus took a slow breath, his voice measured but cold. "You have no idea what we are." The officer laughed. "Oh, I think I do." Behind them, one of the bar patrons quietly pulled out his phone and began recording. The tension was suffocating now, a storm moments from breaking. Malik placed his ID on the table, sliding it forward. "Captain Malik Davis, United States Air Force," he said evenly. The sergeant froze. His partner leaned over to read the card, confusion spreading across his face. Marcus followed suit, placing his badge next to Malik's. "Commander Marcus Davis, United States Navy SEALs." The room went dead silent again, but this time for a different reason. The power dynamic flipped in an instant. The same men they'd just threatened were the very ones who swore to protect the nation, men who'd faced real enemies, not imagined ones. Still, the sergeant hesitated, pride wrestling with reality. The damage was already done. For a long, trembling second, no one spoke. The only sound was the hum of the neon beer sign flickering over the bar. The officers stared at the IDs, disbelief painted across their faces. The same men they'd been seconds away from handcuffing were heroes. Men who had stood on foreign soil defending the very freedoms they were now being denied. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His words carried the quiet authority of a man used to command. "You pointed guns at a Navy SEAL commander and an Air Force captain? Because of a description you can't even name?" The sergeant's jaw tightened, his face flushing crimson. He tried to mutter something about protocol, but the trembling in his hands betrayed him. Everyone in the bar could see it: fear, shame, exposure. Malik stood up slowly, towering over the officer, his calm almost frightening. "You see threats where there are none," he said quietly. "You see our skin before you see our service." A murmur spread through the crowd. Someone whispered, "They're soldiers." Another man near the bar shook his head, muttering, "This country's broken." The sergeant looked around, realizing the cameras were rolling now. Phones pointed at him from every angle. The narrative had flipped completely. The protectors had become the judged. Marcus took a step closer, lowering his voice so only the officers could hear. "Out there in the field, we fight for every man in this uniform, no matter his color. But back home, some of you fight against us." It wasn't anger in his tone. It was disappointment. Deeper, sharper than any weapon. The kind that cuts a man's conscience. The sergeant swallowed hard, muttered something about misunderstanding, and motioned his team toward the door. No apology, just retreat. But the silence that followed was louder than any siren. As they left, the bar erupted, not in applause, but in a heavy, shameful quiet. Everyone knew they had just witnessed something bigger than a confrontation. It was a mirror held up to America, and no one liked the reflection staring back. The silence in that bar lingered long after the officers left. The music stayed off, the air thick with something heavier than fear, awareness. People avoided Marcus and Malik's eyes, unsure whether to apologize or stay quiet. But the twins didn't want pity. They wanted people to understand. Malik sat back down, exhaling slowly. "Funny," he said under his breath. "We've led men into combat, but this feels harder." Marcus nodded. The battlefield was different here. Invisible, silent, everywhere. The kind you couldn't win with strategy or rank. When they finally stood to leave, the bartender stopped them. His voice cracked slightly. I didn't say anything. I should have." Marcus looked at him for a moment, then replied softly, "You still can. Next time." Outside, the cool night air hit them, carrying the sounds of the city. Laughter, traffic, life continuing as if nothing had happened. Malik glanced back at the glowing bar sign and shook his head. "We protect this country," he said quietly. "But sometimes it feels like it doesn't protect us back." Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. Both men walked toward their cars in silence. Two brothers, two soldiers, carrying the weight of every man who looked like them and had faced the same unspoken war. By morning, the video had gone viral. Millions watched the footage, the moment the officers learned who they were. Some called it justice, others denial. But one truth echoed through every comment section and conversation that followed. If men who serve, fight, and bleed for their country can still be treated as suspects because of their skin, what hope is there for those who can't prove their worth with medals? That question didn't fade. It spread in classrooms, homes, and precincts. And maybe, just maybe, it forced some to look a little longer before they judged. Because racism doesn't always wear a hood. Sometimes it wears a badge. And sometimes the bravest act isn't fighting overseas. It's standing tall right here at home.